All right, so I wanted to talk about Rick and Morty. This is season 8, episode 6, the CuRicksous case of Bethjam Button. I have no idea what that is referencing, but as you can see, Beth is we're getting like a nice view of both of the Beth's day-to-day lives, and Beth is with the Earth. Beth is with Jerry. Space Beth is fighting space traffickers, and as you can see here, they're not happy. So, Space Beth is in space. Earth Beth is in her little Honda Civic or whatever it is. You can see Beth here. She's being thanked by a Jackie. And then it culminates where both of the Beths show up, and yeah, they look dead inside. And Rick says, let's go to the park. And then they're like, no. And then they make a 9/11 joke. And yeah. All right. And then they turn one of the Beths, this Earth Beth, into a child, right? It's crazy. They turn Beth into a child, after after drinking some wine, because that's the best. Rick and Rick's like, nobody wants to see a Beth and Beth episode. Oh, how wrong he was. So I just want to thank Ian Cardoni, Dan Harmon, and the entire writing staff, and everybody who does the voices. Anyway, so Danny DeVito, an alien Danny DeVito is running of Earth theme park, and it's corporatized, and Morty meets this girl. God, he meets this girl, man, and the entire park has like these like celebrities with these big faces. John Legend is there. And Summer's like, oh, presumably because his name implies that he's important or something. And Morty goes off with this girl. He's like, hey, don't hate the play, hit the game. And then little Beth kills a possum, and she's sent back into her pod, kicking and screaming, by Space Beth, who really doesn't want to put her back in the pod, but I guess Space Beth's probably like a little bit jealous. So Space Beth sets a trap for Earth Beth in this little fort you can see here, and then there's two Beths, two 10-year-old Beths. Yep, you guessed it. There's two 10-year-old Beths. Two 10-year-old Beths. And they do this little scream thing that I found that was really funny because, it's relatable. And, Rick's crew, Rick, Jerry, and Summer, went into this bathroom thing, and it was an attraction. It wasn't actually a bathroom. So Jerry pees in a bush, which I thought was pretty funny. And Rick promises, of course I've got Molly, for Summer. And then the Beths decide to mess with Gene. They really just want to do something to feel alive, right? Because being kids wasn't enough, so they're like, let's just. And then there's this Kevin Costner. I don't know who Kevin Costner is, but he shows Rick's crew to the real park owner, who is voiced by Danny DeVito. I don't know who he's working on over there. And Rick is like, oh, wow. I guess this is what I remember. And then, the Beths are hiding in the fence, trying to attack Gene. And then it all goes awry when they try shifting blame on each other, and they start a whole big fight. And, things just go absolutely sideways. Gene tries to get his phone, and he remembers his affirmations. How relatable. And then the Beths really just use every tool imaginable to try to attack one another. and it's incredible. One's got a wolf mask. I think that's a luchador mask. And Rick sees that Gene is trying to call somebody, as Gene calls 911 a lot. So Rick shows up with a bag of cash, or briefcase full of cash, and then he actually does something pretty nice where he restores Gene's hand, and then he goes to investigate, and he walks into Beth's traps. First the bear trap, and then an arrow, and then he gets Dookie on his head, and then it's yeah, yep. He puts his hands on a window, and spikes come up. He's got this really cool gadget that cleans him up, and he uses it also to put a field around Gene's house. And then Rick's like, I've had enough. That's it. And then he puts the Beths in these little containment pods. Meanwhile, Jerry and Summer are alone with Psycho Parkman, and you could see Psycho Parkman with Danny DeVito look alike, and Morty's with this alien girl who just wants him to be racist, say something racist. And then we cut back to Rick trying to fix his daughters and stuff. And the daughters are Rick's daughters, so they're smart, the Beths. So they decide to play a prank on Rick. Well, not really a prank. They just want to kick him in the balls and put him in the machine so that they can remain children. And they turn him into a very crusty-looking old man. Yeah, they're like, this is what you deserve. You left us. And then old Rick, super old Rick, is like, I didn't leave you. That was somebody else. My Beth died. And then he starts crying. And honestly, I started crying here too. It just goes to show you how much Rick actually does care about his Beths. And in his own fucked up way. And then we see this idealized Rick, which is really fucking funny. Because it's and then they hug. And one of the Beths hugs him too hard and they break his arm. Meanwhile, Summer, Morty, and Jerry are reunited and they escape. And then it just goes back to the usual things for Beth. Space Beth is in space, fighting space people, and Earth Beth is helping save horses. They do Gene a favor and they help him rebuild his house, his nice pink house. If you see Minecraft, you get that ref. Anyway, so they watch the sunset so beautifully together, and it's beautiful. And yeah, this episode was really good. I'm working on creating content. I know it's rough, and I don't care, because I gotta start somewhere. I just wanted to get my thoughts out here and do a nice little review. This episode, I am so thoroughly satisfied with this season that I'm almost worried that the next episode's gonna be bad, but I really think that they took stock and were okay, we're gonna make something really cool. So all of these episodes have been really awesome. What I liked about this episode was the comedy was on point. It was I was in such a not great mood before I watched this episode, and I was so inspired after watching it. I was I have to bring this positivity out to the people, because it's better when it's shared. I absolutely loved this episode. I wasn't even expecting it to be what it was. I think it's really cool that they're leaning into more of the side characters and, embracing what makes Rick and Morty versus trying to appeal to everybody. They just keep exceeding expectations, which I find really cool. I wasn't expecting this to be a Beth episode until, a couple minutes in. And that's just how I prefer to watch the show, because, I think there's something to be said about being surprised. That being said, I have no idea what the next episode is. I don't really want to know what the next episode is. Is this even recording? Okay, so I'm trying to get the hang of this whole editing thing. It's not great, and I know it, but I'm working on it. Hey, I'm making something, and you should make something too. That being said, look forward to more content. Not committing to doing Rick and Morty, just committing to doing the things that I like, whatever that chooses to be. But yeah, I spent some time making this. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a great day, night, or whatever it is for you.